Hi, this is Roy Jones with Man Talk Radio Podcast. Our mission is to break down the walls of race and denomination. Your chosen Truth Radio broadcast will be starting in just a few seconds. Thank you.
This is the Truth Network.
Coming to you from an entrenched barricade deep in the heart of central North Carolina. Masculine Journey After Hours. A time to go deeper and be more transparent on the topic covered on this week's broadcast. So sit back and join us on this adventure. The Masculine Journey After Hours starts here now.
Welcome to Masculine Journey After Hours, and if you joined us in the first episode, if you didn't, I'm going to tell you what we were talking about, so you're good either way. We were talking about what are you doing during this season to give your heart life, right? There's plenty that's coming at it just to kind of just chip away, just attack it, right? All the COVID updates, all the things you got to do, all the protocol, what you can do, what you can't do, all these rules and regulations and all these things that are just tying you down. The political atmosphere, oh my gosh, if you don't feel oppression there somehow, I don't know how you don't.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe play like 10 seconds of the clip that we played earlier too, because you definitely don't want this to be said of your heart by the time this season is over.
Yeah, but it could be if you're not careful, so let's just get a few seconds of it.
McCoy. Dead, Jim. He's dead.
He's dead, Doctor.
He's dead, Jim. He's dead. He's dead.
There you go. And it goes on for a little bit longer, but it gets pretty funny.
Yeah, he's worse than dead. His brain is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Which happened right after the debate the other night.
Oh, gosh.
Pretty much everybody that watched it, their brains had been sucked out.
Oh, if you made it, yeah, if you made it, I didn't even watch any of it. Honestly, I watched a lot of it in clips afterwards, and my oldest son watched it. He's in his second round of being able to vote. And so he's really engaged, and he was like, I can't believe I watched this whole thing. Yeah, it did get real good. And then you have all the social unrest stuff that is important, and the political thing is important, and the COVID thing is important, and they're vital, and you need to know certain things, but it can wear at your heart if you're not careful. Right? We played the bump in the other show of Hungry Heart. Everybody has a hungry heart. What are you feeding your heart during this season? Are you feeding it things that gives it life? Or are you letting it consume some things that doesn't give it life?
Early on, I was real consumed. Number one, I was sick. I was in the hospital when they shut down the hospitals, literally. When it was announced, no doctor's visits, no hospital, no elective surgeries, all that stuff. I was in the hospital when that happened. And I looked at my doctor and said, hey, look, I know I need to be in here for another 3 or 4 days, but I'm going home. And she said, yep, you're going home. You're married to a nurse. She can take care of you. We're going to get you out of here. And I was like, good deal. Let's go. And so I was feeling, good about that. But then coming home, I can't do anything. I mean, I'm cut from stem to stern, I was laying in bed, just healing, and I'm watching the news, constantly watching all this COVID stuff and researching everything I could get on the internet. I'm a researcher. I'm a teacher at heart, and I want to dig and dig and dig. And I was doing that for, quite a while, to the point where it was like, no, this is going to kill me. And oddly enough, while I was in the hospital, I had an experience one night. I couldn't sleep. I have a hard time sleeping in the hospital because of hospital beds, and I can't sleep on my back. And when your whole sternum to, belly button is cut open, you can't lay on your side initially. And so I'm just laying there not sleeping at night, and literally almost in tears, just saying, God, I'm so tired. I just need some rest. I just need, some sleep. And at one point, I'm just having a conversation with God, and I look down at my stomach, and there's this massive wound. And I went, man, that is some kind of wound, isn't it? And I just feel like God's going, yeah, that is. And, a wound is a great place for healing to start. And I was like, I kind of get where you're going there, but what type of healing are we talking about? And so my word for the year has been healing. And we talked about this 3 weeks ago. I wasn't there that night, but as I began to process that, all year long, God has been going after that and just reminding me, hey, we're doing some healing. And so some of the things I've done for my heart this year, and it is opposed, but some of the things I've done is...
opposed.
What did I say?
Well, it sounded like you said it was oppose.
Oh, no, opposed.
Opposed.
Yes,
yeah,
no, it's not a pose as in I'm posing.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. I do pose a lot, just, not in that particular area.
Yeah, not that time.
And so... one of the things I've started doing is, we have a good friend that is also a deeply spiritual counselor. And so I've started, spending some time with him every couple of weeks and digging into some stuff because honestly, when I was first diagnosed as, when I ended up in the emergency room and the doctor said, look, we're going to have to cut you open and we're going to have to cut your colon out and we're going to have to give you a colostomy. I went, no. And she said, well, you really don't have a choice. It's either that or die. And I said, I'm good with that. And so Kim, our friend Kim Whitehurst, who's a great counselor in the Triad area. If you live in this area and you need counseling, I would highly suggest Kim. Kim goes, so what was with that, Darren? I mean, why were you willing to die rather than go through something that was going to bring you some healing? And so been digging into that a little bit and asking that question and God's really, bringing some healing in that regard and some enlightenment on that. And so, trying to do that, trying to take, the MO. I'm also building a house this year, and that's extremely stressful because I'm the contractor on it, basically. And I've never done that before, so I'm losing my mind right now. But basically, I try to start out every day with, look, if this is the worst thing that happens to me this year, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. So the plumber hadn't showed up for the last 7 weeks that he was supposed to show up and dig a trench. He's trying really hard. He's just not doing. And I won't say who the plumber is, but anyway, that's my dilemma. His equipment is sitting in my driveway right now. It has been for 3 days. He lost his equipment for a while. It's now there. We found it. Sam told me the other day, you should just text him a picture of his equipment and say, hey, I found your equipment for you. But I still don't have a trench and I still don't have a water pipe, going from the road to my house. And so, but again, I'm not going to lose my mind about that. I can laugh about that. Now, it's a little bit upsetting because it is delaying things. But if that's the worst thing that happens to me this year, I'm okay with that, honestly. And I'm trying to adopt that mantra a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. For me, I had a situation that it's not nearly as deep as yours, but it's been very revealing to me. I had back in May, I had these two, 30-foot plus trees, maple trees in my yard. I didn't know what they were until they split in half and they had to be cut up, But a weird storm came through, and I was like, well, that was kind of a weird storm. Seemed kind of violent at times. And then I started getting texts from my neighbors that my two front trees had split in half. And I'm like, oh my gosh, nothing hit the house. Fortunately, nothing was really too bad in the street, just enough that it had to be dealt with. And, it hit at a time where finances weren't in a great shape. And I'm like, how's this even going to work? I don't even know how to do it. And, God kind of stepped in and helped me find somebody that came over and got the trees out at a reasonable price. And I was just mad about it for a while, because I really liked those trees. They had shade to the house. They were pretty. And I was mad, and I wasn't really mad at God, but I was just mad about it. I'd look out at these big stumps in my yard and go, those used to be nice trees. Well, so I went through the process, around July sometime. I had somebody come grind the stumps out, and I thought, well, at least if I could get somebody to grind them, because I went to rent a grinder, and it costs more to rent the grinder than have somebody to do it. And so I had somebody do it. Again, money that I wasn't sure I had. And they came and did it. And then I said, well, I'll just haul off the mulch, not knowing that two trees produce 31 wheelbarrows full of mulch. Two stumps. Really? Yeah, I'm still healing up of the scars of my thumbs. But what started happening is I worked out there and it was hot and it was miserable and I was unhappy. I was frustrated about it. I didn't want to be there. Once I got, all that mulch up and got the rest of it cleared out, and then I put some topsoil down and put some grass seed down and put some straw on it a few weeks ago, started watering it. And then I was out there checking it every day, and all of a sudden I see these little green things jumping up. And in my heart was, as those little pieces of grass would come up, my heart would become more alive. And I realized that, it was just this whole taking something that felt very devastating. And I don't mean that like a health situation, but just something, a shot to your heart that just makes you mad. It's like, really, on top of all this other stuff, I got to deal with this too, right? And then all of a sudden God said, no, I can use this. And I checked my yard before I left. I had these two little spots that started growing grass, but they're getting some green now. I'm out there watering it every day, and just the joy. And so for the last 3 or 4 weekends, I've been out working in my yard, just creating more and more of a nicer place to go outside. Last Saturday night, my son ended up having something he needed to do and wasn't home. We're planning to do a fire pit. I went outside and sat for 7 hours at the fire pit and just enjoyed it. Listened to some music, just sat outside. It's a beautiful night, just watching the fire, all that stuff, and just being out in nature, feeding my heart on things that wasn't Netflix. Because part of the thing that we're talking about, how's the enemy been coming after you during this time? And so anyway, that was a long story.
Well,
but God really helped me.
That story I thought it sounded like to me was the story of Jonah without the whale. The gourd and how the gourd came up and then God took it away and all. And it was like, cool story though.
Well, thank you. It's been good. It's helped me realize I enjoy taking something and turning it into something that I feel is better. Right. And I think everybody's like that in one realm or another, whether that's, with equipment or whether it's with building something or whatever that might be. But for me, I've found, okay, I need a little bit of that each week to go do something that's going to improve to where I can look at it and go, that looks a little better because of some effort I did. It does my heart well.
Gives you some purpose.
Yeah, and it's not like this big earth-shattering thing. It's not like people are going to go by and go, oh, those two little spots in your yard look awesome. It's not that. It doesn't need to be that because it's about my heart.
Yeah.
Let's
in your heart, yeah.
Bring my heart life. Because honestly, for the most of the time up until then, until the trees came down, I was looking for a new Netflix series or something on Hulu or something that, on Disney Plus or whatever that I hadn't seen before, that I hadn't seen 20 times, that I would be willing to watch again.
Well, then, Robbie said you showed him the show Kubla Kai or what it was?
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. And it was like, oh, I got to watch the backstory. And then he just binge watches the whole thing, and it's what you get into. You get into a certain groove, and Netflix is just prime for that. Next episode starts in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You don't have to get up. You don't have to push anything.
No.
It's like, I can even wait through that. I don't even have to hit go now.
Well, every once in a while, they'll come up and say, are you still watching?
Right.
And so you have to hit the button.
Exactly.
Otherwise, that's when you shut off.
That's when you know you've been watching too much.
Yeah, I think it's at least a couple hours before that happens.
Yeah, I've had it happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and not that, again, watching Netflix is a bad thing. There's sometimes that my heart needs just a little bit to unwind.
There's good stuff on there, despite all the other bad stuff.
Even if it's just stupid stuff on there that you watch, like sometimes I'll just go on and put on that show Pawn Stars, out there, and just to watch what people are bringing in because I like history.
Yeah.
And not that I really like the show or even really like the characters that much. I like the things they bring in.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I may just put that on just to kind of clear my head.
Yep.
But 6 hours of that would not be good for my heart.
Well, that's where we have to go look for the things in something else that's good for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some other people are, I just love the characters. Well, you like the stuff. And we have to find what's good for us in our heart, and it could be different at different seasons.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
mine was Alaska's Last Frontier. You like that too, Darren? Yeah,
I've always liked that, yeah.
Yeah, just the can-do attitude of that, and then the adventure that they have and stuff. That was... And it was a go-to, but eventually I began to realize I need something kind of like you. I need something I'm actually touching and stuff. And I put out a garden. My word for the year was abundance, which I was thinking it was going to be more like restoration, but it came back to abundance. And I have to say that this year has been one of the better years for my heart, and it's because I got quieter. Now I've not been good through this. There's been times when I've gotten. I've watched the news too much. I've gotten focused on, stuff that I don't need to or whatever. But overall, it really has been a good year of abundance with the Lord. I feel much more like in John 15 where it says I'm connected to the vine. Much more, Harold, you were mentioning scripture a while. I've been on the 1-year Bible plan for 2 years now, and probably going to finish up. It's going to take me 2 years to read through the Bible, but it has done my heart, and it's kind of funny going through that plan, how many times the scripture really did match my time. And I'm like, well, the world said the plan said I needed to do this in a year, but I'm right on time, so that was one thing. But back to my garden, my small garden, it was really, I don't have a lot of room up in Boone where I'm at, and I'm kind of on a side of a hill, but I planted some tomatoes, and then I planted some squash. Got this huge squash. That was really cool to do. It's been a while since I've been able to garden, and I don't know that I could say anything really produced an abundance, but my jalapenos, I kicked it out. I mean, you guys were the benefactors of that. So, it's just been a cool year with all the bad, God can be there providing you what you need for your heart. He knows how He created us. He knows what we need. And if we just seek Him, we'll find those things.
Yeah, the painting I've actually been working on that I think it's going to end up being, it started out as a scene from the beach from a couple of years ago when I first started on it. And it happened to be night, so the water was really dark. And so the more I've been sitting there and kind of where I've been, it's become like, hopefully moving from 2020 to 2021, one side of it's really dark and got a lot of rain clouds and lots of stuff, and the other side you're starting to get some light, and I'm really I'm hoping that that's a mantra that says, okay, it's going to be better, the next year than it was this year, because I feel like my heart's been kind of making that travel of just feeling just this oppression, right? Because the enemy comes after you during this time. Proverbs tells us, and is it Proverbs 3:20, Darren? 4:20. Guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. Right? Well, don't take that lightly. Guard your heart, because that's what gives you life. You may think it's your brain, but I promise you, it's your heart. Right? Your heart is where you do your deepest thinking. Right? You don't fall in love with somebody because it makes good financial sense. I promise you that. You fall in love with somebody because your heart says to fall in love with them. If you have a kid, it doesn't make financial sense to have a kid. None at all. They cost you lots of money over the years.
You better have a big farm.
Yeah. But your heart, man, hold them for the first time and it's over, right?
Yeah.
Right? Those heart makes the biggest decisions, so guard that heart.
Earlier I gave the hint about the U-Bible for your phone. Got another one. F. LaGard Smith arranged the Bible in chronological order, and it's arranged so that you read through the entire Bible in a year. I've been doing that now for quite a number of years. I highly recommend that as a way of trying to help your heart in these times, because starting your day out in both of those two ways will see you down the road a way.
Yeah, you're feeding your heart something good.
Yeah, and you got to have that community. That was where you have community with God and you have community with some others in a different way, as well as our Tuesday nights, which is, like you said, Andy, you've got another group started that's going. I mean, brotherhood for us guys is important, sisterhood, and then shared community, whether it's through church or some other way. It's all good. Yeah. For me, I'm more like you, Andy. This year has been one of the best for my heart. I really have not been into the COVID thing at all. When it started, I didn't watch a whole lot of news. I'm like, well, yeah, it's going to come here. It's going everywhere. Look how bad it is in China to start with. And it's like, we're all standing around shocked, trying to blame everybody. And it's like, well, if you all would just shut up and try to just solve it together, I'm sure we'd be all better off, But you have then all the other things are happening. And like, I knew about it and I listened to enough to go, okay, I'm informed. I know what's going on. I know enough truth. So let me get back to the truth and get into the Word. And that's been really good. But just to be able to, for me, I've been out fishing more. And I've never been a big fisherman. I got to the point where I'm talking to my son, like, well, I'm doing this, I'm thinking that, what do you think? And he's like, Dad, I think you know more than me now. Because he's like, you're out fishing and doing this stuff, and he hasn't fished now for a while. He's in school and he's just busy, and he had to work all summer too, and he's just a busy guy, and he's working multiple jobs and going to school, and he's just bear down. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm freed up. I've got time. I'm like, and I'm taking time. I'm being that intentionality. I'm like, I am going to go fish. I'm going to go do this and that. I've talked to all the neighbors that, because there's a set of ponds behind us and all people live around the ponds. I've talked to all of them. Hey, you know, is it okay if I come down and fish? Do you mind? Can I do this or do that? And got to know them. It's been really nice. And the guy that comes out at, you know, you're about 5:30 in the evening to 6 o'clock and walks his dog. So I get to see the dog and pet him and we talk and chit chat. That is so freeing. That is wonderful for my heart. And you have to be intentional about going out and doing those kinds of things.
Well, as guys, I think we get so caught up in providing and doing all the responsibility stuff, and we feel like they're being a good soldier. But whenever you walk away and don't really take care of your heart and do these things you guys are talking about, you're not going to have the life that you need to continue on to do those important things and have the influence to your family that you need.
Yeah, Rodney was talking about something. I've been trying to figure out a project I can do in my yard. I'm going to go fishing Saturday morning because I haven't been fishing I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I enjoy fishing. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go out. Hopefully I'm catching when I'm out there, not just fishing. You know, I was afraid you're going to share the story again, Rodney, how you used to listen to our podcast. You found some you really liked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like you did at the
really
first
good
show.
podcast. Yeah. Something that's fresh.
Hey,
and
I'm
new.
clear back to season 4. So.
Well, you know, as we're talking about this, we've got another clip that we can play from Bagger Vance, which we all decided is, you know, probably as a group, it might be our favorite movie. And ultimately, what happens if you don't do some intentional work with your heart, you'll end up kind of like Bagger does in this clip. And if you remember the movie, he's had a horrible day. He's 12, or Juna. He's 12 shots back. He's getting his head handed to him. And Bagger's trying to cheer him up a little bit, and Juna just doesn't want to hear it. And then this conversation happens where Juna gets really deep for a minute about basically the life of the heart.
Let me tell you something. There's no difference between winning and losing and anything in between. What's lost is lost. A man lives, a man dies. And in the end, it all turns out the same. You're alone. And that's all you're ever gonna be.
That a fact. Alone. So a soul is born with everything that the Lord can give it, and things don't go its way, so it just gives up, and the good Lord just takes everything back.
That's right.
And then the soul dies alone. But that's pretty much what you said?
That's right.
That's a sad story, Mr. Junior.
Yes, it is.
And that's about the dumbest thing I heard any fool say ever. You got yourself a hard eye there, Mr. Jenner. Soul is born with everything, don't look dies, and the good Lord. You a funny man, Mr. Jenner.
Well, Harold, you knew Juna personally, didn't you?
Yeah, you watched him hit the ball 300 yards off the tee.
Harold was the little boy following Juna around in the movie, and so I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm old, but I do have one more recommendation.
Okay.
If you don't already have one, get a dog.
That's true. Now, I mean, dogs are therapeutic. If you don't believe that dogs don't bring life. My dogs have been sick a lot lately, and we've spent a lot of money on them. Thankfully, we have pet insurance. But man, I love them. I mean, we have 3 of them now. We are supposed to be fostering dogs for a rescue until somebody else adopts them. The problem is all the ones we foster, we fall in love with, and we decide we need to keep them.
The good news is you're 100% on adoption.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'm with you, Harold. When all else fails, when you can snuggle up to a dog and pet his head, or when I'm sitting there in deep thought and frustrated, and my dog comes up, and this will tell you a lot about my life. I'll be reclined in my recliner, and my dog will come up behind me and lick my bald spot. And it's hard to be upset about anything when your dog loves you that much.
Yeah. I took my dog this last week. I have a dog that was my daughter's dog. Now it's been my dog. He's been with us 13 years. And, I thought, he's slowing down. He's getting a lot older. And, I just haven't, during COVID, I haven't been able to get him out to get him groomed or anything. And he just had slowed down so much. I'm thinking he's not going to make it much longer. We may not have him another year. Went and got him a haircut. You think he's a puppy. He couldn't see. That was his problem. He had all his hair in his eyes. Now he runs around like he's a puppy again. And I'm like, where's that magic haircut for me, man? That's what I need. But that's what we're talking about is give your heart a shot of a haircut or something that makes it see a little
We don't have
clearly.
that problem, do we, Darren?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. You don't have to spend money on these things. But
Yeah.
no, that's exactly what's wrong with us, though. We walk around in this fog. We walk around with what the enemy keeps hitting us with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we got to guard our heart and give us that shot of life.
I've been listening to a podcast that I like, other than ours. I've been listening to John Eldridge's Wild at Heart podcast here. I've listened to it for years, but the last 5 weeks he's been talking specifically about the ambivalence of the second coming of Christ, that we kind of live in this ambivalence of, well, there's a lot of people out there right now saying, hey, it's coming. It's coming next week. It's coming next month. It's coming the year after. And I don't know the answers. And in fact, my Bible tells me that we're not going to know, but there are some signs perhaps that'll tell us when times are getting closer. And I know this, we're closer today than we were yesterday.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that is made a difference in this time for me is that just thinking about, you know what? I probably have lived a lot of my life not really with that expectation of this might be it. This might be the year. And I'm good with that. I'm excited about that,
Yes.
quite frankly, because I'm looking for some deeper restoration that's only going to come, on the other side of this.
In the meantime, what I'd ask you to do this week is just be honest with yourself. Do you feel weary? Do you feel beat down? Do you feel like you just don't have much going on?
Mm-hmm.
You need a shot of life, and go ask God, where can I get that life this week? And I can tell you, you're going to get some great life if you come to the boot camp, November 12th through 15th. We're not doing it to make money. We don't make money on these things.
We spend
see
money.
people's hearts come alive, and we know that's what this world needs.
This is the Truth Network.